The market is volatile, the stocks keep going down. Then boom, we hit new highs. Everything is different now, but you don't gotta chase. Don't panic, don't stress. Time to realign, plan it out, invest. It's the First Fruits Podcast. We elevating with the First Fruits Podcast. No time for waiting, time to grow, give back, reinvest like that. Everything you need to know, the First Fruits Podcast. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of the First Fruit Stock Club. Man. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great week so far. Man, it's hump day, and it's a great day to talk about stocks. I love it. Man, I have the pleasure to get on here and discuss the stock market, which is one of my favorite topics in the world. If you don't know me, my name is Donald Green. I'm the founder of the First Fruit Stock Club, and we are an investment club that focuses on investing in the market. And what we do is we have a guideline and a system that I developed. Is called the First Fruit System, right? And in the First Fruit System, our goal is to for the month, right, is to earn $10,000 in a month, right? $10,000 in a month. And we do this a few different ways. All right. And I'm going to show you how we do it and get into that. But first, before I get into that, please like, subscribe, and share this information. Please like, subscribe, and share. Um, Man, I work really hard to get this information together. And but it's a lot of stuff junk out there, and we need more things online that allow us to be fruitful and multiply our finances. All right. So that's the goal. So also, disclaimer: the information provided by the First Fruit Stock Club podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered financial, investment, tax, or legal advice. The views expressed by the host and his guests are of their own and do not reflect the opinions of any financial institution or regulatory authority. Investing in stocks and other securities carries risk, including the potential of loss. Past performance is not indicative of future um, results. Always conduct your own financial research. Consult with a licensed financial professional before making any investment decisions. The First Fruit Stock Club and its affiliates do not guarantee any specific outcomes or returns. By listening to this podcast, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your own investment decisions. Man, how is everybody doing out there? Man, my wife and I, family and we just came back from a nice little trip to, man, wearing these glasses. We were in New Orleans, Biloxi, Mississippi, and Hattiesburg, Mississippi. My mother is from Hattiesburg. My grandparents and a lot of my family's from Hattiesburg. So I spent a lot of time in New Orleans. And man, but my wife and I hadn't been down there in a while. Um, so my son, my aunt created this uh, we'll say format for my son, which is similar to the Jewish. Gosh, I can't even think of the name of it. Basically, the coming of age, right? And for African American kids, is my son and one of and two other young men. One of my also my nephew and sorry, my cousins, and she created a format that allowed them to grow up as teenagers, and they spent basically 21 days talking about purpose, uh, spending a lot of time with a lot of my uncles who have different trades, such as cutting hair. One of them is He is in constructions and real estate and just a lot of different things. My son was exposed to a lot of different things, and it's real important, especially my son. He's at the age where he starts smelling himself, and he's like a 13. He's 13 years old now, so it's like he's changing quickly, right? He changed definitely last year, but he's really changing now. So it's real important that he gets ingrained in a different environment, of course, right? It's important that kids go into, and whatever you're doing, go into a different environment so you can take in information. Because what happens, the same message, I don't care, what you're doing. Sometimes the same message can get stale. Definitely from his mom and I, we're saying the same thing. But spending time with my aunt, who's a little bit more direct, she has a stronger personality. For those who are coaches, we consider those pilots, right? And he he had an opportunity to spend time with her, and she basically helped them make better decisions. Understand decision making, make better decisions. Um, Basically them being able to, take care of themselves, wash their clothes, things that we do here, but basically not as that extent because, he has his mom and mommy loves to take care of her son. I get it, or her boys, but this was an opportunity for him to grow up, right? At years old, he's going to the eighth grade. And if you have a 13-year-old, it comes that time where kids have to grow up. Going to the eighth grade, we'll be in high school I can't believe it, right? We'll be in high school in a year from now. And what they're saying is like once kids hit high school, that's it. Basically they're almost gone and going to college, right? And having discussions about faith, having discussions about responsibility, having discussions about financial management and making sound decisions for 21 days without my voice, right? Which is, he's kind of used to my voice all these years. I think is real important. It was like a camp and more of a coming of age. So I thought it was a great thing. So anyway, my wife and I, we went to why he had basically a ceremony after the process was over. He had a ceremony, and in the ceremony, he discussed it, and I gave him blessings as well as his grandparents gave him blessings. His granddad gave him blessings, and everyone that was there. So it's important for him to take things forward as we have kids take things forward and put our kids in different situations in different places. I'm always on here talking about my kids, and you're out there. You probably talk about your kids also. All right. So today's show is, and this is probably the format that I'm going for now on is, man, the goal $10,000 in July, $10,000 in July. And we plan to hit this goal, right? I want to hit this goal. I'm talking to the club definitely tomorrow about this goal. We've been doing a strategy, but I haven't put it in a goal format. And this is where we are. We're gonna put it in a goal format. How do we hit $10,000 in July? $3,000 to $4,000 in dividends, $5,000 in trading, and $2,000 in long-term gains. Right. So the question is how, right? And in the club, I've laid out different funds that will generate anywhere from 1% to 5% per month, right? Per month, generate 1 to 5% per month, you know, based on your investment. So, if you're wanting to invest in these funds, I believe that dividends should be one of the cores of your strategy, right? And I know everyone says, "Hey, man, let's invest in the long term," and we're going to have some long term things I'm going to show you also. But how do you hold for long terms? And when you have different things in the short term that you need to take care of, like for example, you want to travel, right? Want to travel, you want to have extra money to travel. It costs a lot of money to travel. I mean, just my family. I mean, for for a plane trip, it's like close to $3,000. Like it's four of us. So if you want to fly a family of four, 3,000 off the break, and that's not the cost of food and the things when you get there. So like, how do you navigate that as well as invest? So one of the strategies I have is developing a dividend portfolio where yes, the majority of the dividends should be reinvested back into the portfolio. But from time to time, things get expensive. You might need extra money. The dividend portfolio allows us to do that. I know a lot of times people say, well, reinvest the dividends. No, we want to reinvest the dividends into the portfolio as a whole. So let me show you how we do that. So like I said, 1 to 5% per month, right? And everyone said, well, if I do dividends, if I invest in dividends take too long, right? They take too long. Well, not if you accelerate the dividends, right? Accelerate the money you have. And how do we do that? We use options contracts, right? To earn, the goal is to earn $5,000 in trades in a month. So if you earn $5,000, we're looking for contracts priced between $500 and $1,000. Okay. And some of the contracts have been a little bit more expensive. So I haven't recommended them to the club, but I've invested in some of the contracts. But they are my goal was $500 to $1,000, trying to find those contracts, and those contracts allow us, they're good price points, right? And options is very easy to take 500 to grow to 1,500 or 1,000 and grow to 3,000. It's not really hard because options are leverage positions that you are controlling 100 shares per contract. Well, if you do one contract, but you may do three contracts, five contracts, whatever, right? Whatever, how much money you have. Um, and it's easy to earn 100 to 200% in options. Now, options can go the other way also, but in options, if you put up 500, all you can lose is $500, right? And majority of the time, if you're down 50, 60%, depending on where the market, we may just cut that and say you may only lose half of that and we can take that money and reinvest it. But the good thing about options, you can only lose. And what we do is we do leap options, long-term call options, right? Where we're having a time frame before the options is exercised from 6 months to a year, right? But it can be exercised anytime within that period. As I discussed last week with Facebook. I had a few days and 150%. So with options, that's not hard, but you have to know what you're doing. And this is the accelerator. Options are the accelerator in a portfolio that gets us to having passive income, right? Having a nice chunk of passive income coming in. If we have a nice chunk of passive income, guess what we can do? We can buy more option contracts. We can reinvest it, buy more options contracts, or we can increase our income. We can increase our income buying more shares of the dividend funds or stocks that I have. We can add more shares to increase our income. But one thing we can also do is we can invest in our long-term portfolio, right? And investing in a long-term portfolio is not, that's one of those things that's not sexy, right? It's not sexy. You have to wait, can't spend it, you gotta let the money sit and let the money do what it does. And it's volatile with those stocks, very volatile. As I discussed before, is that if you invested $1,000 in Tesla at its IPO, you basically earned what it was 350 some odd $1,000 up till today. I think initially the IPO price was at $17 a share, right? So if you held that today, now it's close to 300. Well, at the time, close to 400. You've turned that thousand to 300 and some odd $1,000. Well, $1,000 doesn't become is not a big deal to you when you have an option. I mean, you have dividends paying you weekly and on a monthly basis, and it's on a monthly basis, but they pay you weekly every Friday, usually paid or some other time during the week to have coming in, and then you get to take that dividend income and reinvest it. And guess what? You can put it into the long term portfolio, which is important. And the long term portfolio basically can sit in the background for you, right? And it can compound for you over time as those companies grow, as the earnings grow, as the margins expand, right? Company becomes larger and larger, and then you have those profits. So let's look at it. Just say if we were to put $1,000 in some of the top stocks of the last 10 years, what would that $1,000 have turned into? All right. So Nvidia, $1,000 invested for 10 years. Today, that $1,000 would have turned into 154,400. AMD, right? $91,900. Micron, which was over 6,000% on that time, with a total of 6,000. I don't like that. 66,600. Comfort System Fix, with a total at 58,200. Seagate, with a total of 40,500. ScanDisk, right? 39,700. Lam Research, I really like Lam Research, at 39,000. Arista Networks, I like Arista too, 38,200. Dell Technologies, man, I tell you, I did not see Dell coming. Dell Technologies, 34,400. And KLA, Clack, which is a semiconductor chip maker, $32,200, right? And this is $1,000 invested, right? This is $1,000 invested, but it's the thing of it's really hard to have money sit there through the ups and downs because they weren't just up the whole entire time. They were up and down, up and down. But this doesn't even go into, well, what if every time what we just went through, which we're continuing to go through, the market conditions of the market being very volatile, up and down, up and down. If you decided to invest more money, so the plan really works when you are doing the following, right? When you can put your money in the dividend funds and earn 1 to 5%, as well as adding your own money to it, right? To those, and so you have the dividends that is generating, and you're also adding money to that. So, but that takes budgeting, right? You have to develop a budget, and your portfolio should become a bill for you, right? Becomes a bill for you, and you expand the portfolio, and then we add the options. So, but the difficulty is really in the options and selecting options, selecting correct option contracts. And with options, we have to deal with what's called market behavior, right? Market behavior, right? So we have people in the market or market participants who who gain information or who receive information in different ways. Some people are straight goal oriented, right? And they deal with the goal of the market is you want to make money. So you looking for risk on, and they won't listen to all other noise and things that are out there. Strictly risk on. You don't care. You just find a entry point and an exit point. That's all they're looking for, right? But then you have people who are stimulated by the market communication, right? What's going on in the market, right? What's going on in the market? What are the different things? And market communication determines the environment of the market. I always say this: the communication in the market determines the environment, right? Determines the environment. So let's look at the communication now in the market. Escalating tensions with US and Iran, right? This is a continuing thing. Oil prices continuing to rise. Now they're saying, well, oil is going to go back up 150,000, and the rise of treasury yields. right? These are the market communication is very negative right now. But when it gets really negative, you get some of the best prices. But it's hard investing, right? When you have a lot of negative market communication, and you do have to look forward. We have some different things going on next week in regards to the Federal Reserve and some other communications going on in the market. But you do have to have some gall and have a formula where you're trying to find prices. Our formula is I'm looking at the different market communications and I'm trying to find support in the market. If I can find support and I can if I can find follow through where people are willing at a point where people are willing to come in and support the market where it is, then I think that the market will move. So when we look at the Nasdaq, and this is from June 26th, and this is like the last month. I went out a month, and we hit a bottom of 25,206.57. Right, that's the bottom, and we have a hit a current top of 26,972. But if you as you look, the market, the range, which I like. Oh, I should have shown. I think we looks like we're going to maybe break out. And I see the pattern forming. I wish I'd have done this before the thing, but there's an opportunity for us to, I think, now to invest. You do have to be careful. There's a lot of communication, a lot of different things going on. But when we look at the bottom for the last month, and we look at the top of the market, I think that we could break out. But we're in June. We're in July. July is historically been one of the best months. But basically, the whole goal and the whole formula is getting from risk off, which we were at the beginning of July, to when the machines turn back on, we go back to risk on. We go to risk on. And we have to position ourselves from going to risk off, where people are just basically selling and everything is dropping. We've experienced that probably within the last week or so, where everything was dropping, especially semis and memory stocks were really getting hammered, really getting destroyed. So we have to navigate that from the semis all the way to the risk on. So through the risk off, we see the market communication that's moving, right. People are now, like I said, the communication is the war escalating conditions and for the war, the oil prices increasing, and also the increase in treasury yields, which is never good for stocks. They usually act in a uh, act in opposite directions, as they say. But that's what we're always navigating in the club. And I give specific directions. I'm just doing general here online, but specific directions of how we navigate. And man, so we can get to that $10,000 a month. Like I said, you can do it. I believe because I'm doing it, and you can do it three or $4,000 in dividends, 5,000 in trading, and 2,000 in long term. Like it's doable. People, just beginning, but it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Just kind of got it through. And not only that, with the dividends, you have to know when to buy the dividends stocks also. Like, you just can't go in and just buy the dividends and not really think about. You always have to try to get the best price, and at the best price, therefore, it gives you the best dividend income, right? The best dividend income. We want the best dividend income. That goes with pricing. We want the best option pricing, and we want the best for the long term, to get into the long term and add to our long terms. Where it look it, from it from the perspective of the information that I gave out, we're at 10 years, but we can cut that down to 5 years and get those returns in 5 years. Guess what? If when the stock goes down or the market goes down, we continue to reinvest at those periods in the market, and that is how We use the first fruits formula. It allows us to participate in the market and during ups and downs, and also during a long term as well as short term, and also for using leverage at optimal times, which is options. All right, this is the end of the show. Thank you guys for giving me a few moments of your time. And if you are interested and you're looking for someone to help you navigate the market, or you've been looking for a club, I want you to think about joining us, First Fruit Stock Club. And and you can go to www.firstfruitstockclub.com. Once again, www.firstfruitstockclub.com. And until next week, see you next week, God willing. And I hope that you and your finances bear good fruit. Bye bye.
The market is volatile, the stocks keep going down. Then boom, we hit new highs. Everything is different now, but you don't gotta chase. Don't panic, don't stress. Time to realign, plan it out, invest. It's the First Fruits Podcast. We elevating with the First Fruits Podcast. No time for waiting, time to grow, give back, reinvest like that. Everything you need to know, the First Fruits Podcast. Let's go.